Losing my job didn't feel like the end of the world. At first, it felt more like a glitch, like my life had lagged for a second and everything would reload properly if I just restarted. I'd been working at that agency for almost 5 years. Marketing, strategy, late nights, the occasional "you're a rock star" email from the VP that didn't come with a raise. Then came the layoffs, restructuring they called it. I was part of the restructure. My badge stopped working before HR finished emailing the announcement. But the real glitch wasn't in my job. It was in my girlfriend's reaction. We'd been living together for a little over a year in a nice little apartment with exposed brick and monthly rent that could fund a small war. Her name was Madison. She was the kind of woman who said things like manifesting energy and thought she was healing trauma by buying eucalyptus bundles off Etsy. Stylish, confident, the type who always had a new skincare product and a fresh reason to talk about it. When I told her I got laid off, she blinked twice, paused, then asked, "So, what are you going to do?" Not "are you okay?" Not "we'll figure it out." Just, "what are you going to do?" That should have been the warning sign. But I was still rebooting from the job loss. Still assuming people were better than they were. The following days were a montage of her slowly detaching. She stopped eating dinner with me. She started watching Netflix with headphones. She changed her phone password, subtle enough to go unnoticed if you weren't paying attention, but I was. And then one Thursday, after she came back from her Pilates class and a suspiciously long Target run, she said the words like she was reading a horoscope aloud. "I just can't be with someone who's not moving forward in life." She said it like I'd decided to be unemployed for fun. Like I was lounging around drinking margaritas and ignoring job applications. I'd been laid off for 2 weeks. 2. That's barely enough time to update a resume, let alone become directionless. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't ask her to stay. I just nodded. And the next morning, while she was at yoga, I got to work. I made a list. Not out of spite, out of practicality. A spreadsheet, actually. 3 columns. 1 item. 2, who paid for it. 3, whose name it was under. Turns out, Madison loved aesthetics. But she wasn't big on ownership. The smart TV? I bought it. The couch? My name on the credit card. The air fryer she loved so much she posted it on Instagram like a newborn? My mother gave it to me for Christmas. The apartment lease? Joint, but all utilities were under my account. Even the Spotify premium we used to play our fake Sunday jazz brunches? Mine. And then there was the dog. Baxter. A French bulldog with more personality than either of us combined. Technically, she picked him. Practically, I paid for him. Vet bills? Me. Pet insurance? Also me. He slept on my side of the bed and followed me room to room like I was the sun. Madison just liked posting photos of him for likes. I liked him because he never pretended. So yeah, I put him on the list too. By the time I was done, I realized something deeply poetic. She may have walked out on me, but she'd built her little life on things that weren't hers. All image. No roots. A curated lifestyle with none of the substance. I gave myself 48 hours to move out, not out of panic, but precision. I scheduled the U-Haul. Hired 2 guys off TaskRabbit. I even labeled boxes by room to make it easy. Madison always said I was too organized. Well, lucky her. Now she could enjoy that one last time. She had Pilates again Saturday morning. A 90-minute core and breathwork session. That was my window. While she was busy aligning her chakras, I was disassembling the coffee table. Everything came out. TV, couch, shelves, art, air fryer, rugs. The wine glasses from that vineyard trip she never stopped mentioning. Gone. And I didn't just take the big stuff. I took my stuff. The router, the Wi-Fi extender, the kitchen knives, the Apple TV remote she always misplaced. Even the plants. Because guess what? I was the one who watered them. And yes, I took Baxter. He didn't even look back when we left. By noon, the apartment was nearly empty. It didn't look broken into. It looked like a freshly staged Zillow listing. The walls had that echo of betrayal. Cold. Hollow. Honest. I left one thing behind. A note. Taped to the fridge. Since you're so into forward motion, I figured I'd help you start over. No signature. No need. I didn't hear from her that night. Not a single text. Not even a "where's the dog?" Which was surprising, given how she used to call him her little man whenever guests came over. I figured maybe she was too proud. Or maybe she thought I'd come crawling back after my petty little tantrum. She had no idea this wasn't rage. It was cleanup. Silent, surgical, and overdue. The next morning, I got an email. Subject line: seriously? That was it. No greeting. No punctuation. Just seriously. Like I'd committed a minor inconvenience, not an intentional, legally justified removal of everything I owned. I didn't respond. A few hours later, I got a Venmo request for half the rent. That one made me laugh out loud. She really thought she could play that card, even though I'd already called the landlord and formally removed myself from the lease, had all my things, and left the apartment in pristine condition, minus, of course, her carefully curated illusion. Then came the Instagram fallout. She posted a black and white selfie with a caption about cleansing toxic energy and the pain of letting go. A few of her followers commented with hearts and fire emojis. One girl even said, "You're so strong for starting over." Strong. She ghosted a man for losing his job, walked away with nothing, and now wanted sympathy for having an empty apartment and no dog? I didn't engage. I didn't like, comment, subtweet, or post a vague story. I just watched. Quietly. It was amazing how quickly her feed went from morning matcha and sunlight to deep reflection in moody lighting. Suddenly, everything was a lesson. Everything was part of the journey. She was grieving, apparently, grieving the consequences of her own performance. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. Resume updated. Interview scheduled. Moved into a smaller place, but it was mine, really mine. No lavender diffusers. No framed quotes that said good vibes only. Just a desk, a bed, and my dog. Baxter seemed happier too. He snored louder. Ran faster. Ate like every meal was his last. Maybe he sensed the peace. Or maybe he just liked that I stopped dressing him in bandanas for content. One night, 2 weeks later, Madison emailed again. This time, it was a real message. She said she'd been thinking a lot. That she might have overreacted. That she didn't mean to make me feel abandoned. The usual post-crisis soft landing. Not quite an apology, not quite accountability. Just enough words to see if the door was still cracked open. I didn't answer. Not because I was angry. Because I was finally done explaining myself to people who only heard me when I was doing well. I always used to think that people showed their true selves under pressure. But that's only half the truth. Pressure reveals some things, sure. But comfort? Comfort is what exposes the rest. When things were easy, Madison was magnetic. Effortlessly charming. She wore empathy like jewelry, pretty delicate, just for show. But the second life required endurance, she bailed. Not loudly. Not violently. Just conveniently. Like returning a sweater that didn't fit anymore. I guess I should have seen it coming. She never dated me. She dated the life I built. The stable paycheck, the brunches, the vacations with filters. She liked being seen with me more than being with me. She liked telling people I worked in strategy. It sounded important. Smart. Clean. Unemployed didn't sound as good on Instagram. The funniest part? I was the one with the backup plan. The one with the savings, the discipline, the spreadsheet brain. She thought I'd spiral, like the world would collapse because she did. But I didn't. I reorganized. Reprioritized. Restarted. Meanwhile, she had to face something she couldn't manifest or caption away. Emptiness. I found out through a mutual friend. The kind of friend who pretends not to take sides but spills tea like it's their side hustle. Madison tried to sublet the apartment. Couldn't afford the rent alone. Started crashing with a friend in a one-bedroom place. Until she figured it out. And Baxter? She posted an old photo of him with the caption, "Miss my boy," followed by a crying emoji. Cute. I also heard she started dating a guy from her gym. Personal trainer. Great abs, not so great credit score. Apparently, he lived with his parents and called himself a lifestyle entrepreneur, which I think is LA code for sells supplements through DMs. It would have been easy to feel smug, to laugh, but I didn't. I just nodded. Because the thing is, when you walk away clean, with your peace intact and your self-respect folded neatly in your suitcase, you don't need revenge. You already won. One afternoon, while drinking coffee with Baxter snoring beside me, I realized something that felt stupidly profound. Sometimes the best form of revenge is not becoming the version of yourself they assumed you'd be without them. No breakdown. No spiral. No desperate comeback texts. Just silence. Success. And a happy French bulldog who never had to wear a sweater again. It's funny how much space someone takes up until they're gone, not just physically, but in the small things. Like the way silence fills a room differently when it's yours alone. Or how grocery shopping becomes easier when no one's demanding oat milk and obscure spices for recipes they never finish. I adjusted. Quickly, honestly. Quicker than I expected. And not because I didn't care, but because the version of her I missed wasn't real. It was curated. Filtered. A character she played when things were going well. And now there was no performance left. Just the backstage mess and me, finally done sweeping up after it. I never responded to her email. Never reached out. Never looked back. I wasn't being dramatic. I was being precise. You don't need to send smoke signals to people who let you burn. You just walk away. I got a new job. Fully remote. Better pay. No toxic bosses. The kind of position Madison would have bragged about. Too bad she wasn't around to tell people. I started building again, slow, clean, and real this time. No more pretending for photos. No more lifestyle for show. Just life. Baxter became the center of my off hours. Long walks. Fewer costumes. Better food. He seemed grateful in that subtle dog way, with eyes that said, "Thanks for not dragging me through the chaos again." And maybe I imagined it, but I think he snored less when the apartment was quiet. A few months later, I saw Madison by accident, Whole Foods. She looked surprised. I looked calm. She said, "Hey," like we hadn't completely disassembled a shared life. I nodded. She asked how I was. I said, "Good." She waited, like maybe there was more. There wasn't. She looked different. Not worse. Just less polished. Like the filters had finally worn off, and the algorithm stopped favoring her side of the story. We said goodbye. No hugs. No apologies. Just eye contact that lasted a second too long and told the whole truth. I left with my groceries in peace. That night, I sat on my couch, the same one I'd taken from the apartment, drinking the same bourbon I'd hidden from her so she wouldn't water it down with Coke. Baxter curled up next to me, and I stared out at the skyline. And you know what? I didn't feel victorious, or spiteful, or bitter. I felt free. Not because she was gone, but because I finally realized she never really showed up to begin with.